So we're sheltering in place or we're quarantined and we have access to all of our fragrances and we can wear anything we want. We're at our own homes and you can spray away as many sprays as you want and pull out your beasts and wear them because nobody's going to tell you, ew, that's too strong, oh, you smell bad, blah, 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 blah. Wear anything. Wear 20 sprays, 30 sprays, 50 sprays. Wear the beasts that you have. Well, today I'm going to talk to you about 20 of my favorite beasts. These are the quarantine beasts, I should say. But these are beasts that you can wear pretty much any time of the year. Just remember, they're going to probably choke you if you overspray, or they're probably going to turn off people around you, whatever. These are some of my strongest fragrances in my collection, and I'm going to tell you what they are coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right, today I'm going to talk about beast mode fragrances. Yes, I'm using the word. Do I really like this word? Well, I don't like this word and I do like it because it does explain what the fragrances are. I love fragrances and I love intense fragrances. I grew up with my dad and my mom, obviously, and my dad was an oversprayer. My mom is an oversprayer. They both loved fragrances and they oversprayed and they loved it intense. In fact, when I give my mom fragrances now, she goes, this one doesn't last too long and this one lasts a long time. So we are all this way in my family. We like it strong. But anyway, today I'm going to tell you about 20 of my strongest fragrances and strong brands or intense brands in my collection. But if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Let me ask you, do you guys like them intense? Do you like them beast mode? Do you like them monster with big projection, monster sillage, and then also major longevity? Do you like those kind of fragrances? Can you wear them at work? I can. I'm pretty much self-employed. I overspray. I don't have anybody to worry about. I don't have anybody telling me your fragrance is strong. We don't allow fragrance in this work environment, yada yada yada. So I don't have to deal with it, but some of you probably do, and you're always being told this to wear, not to wear. This one has a sensitivity, that one does not have a sensitivity. Well, we're all locked up currently and we can wear whatever the heck we want because nobody's going to tell me that you're strong, your fragrance is strong, and your scent is too weird, you smell like a grandma, or you smell like a bed of flowers, or you smell like an animal, it smells dirty, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So today I'm going to tell you 20 of my favorite, most intense quarantine monsters or quarantine beasts, and we're going to start off with this one which I just recently reviewed. This is Intense Black Oud from Montal. Montal's Black Oud is already pretty intense, and here we have a more intense version of the original Montal. And so basically you have everything amplified and you have an extrait de parfum concentration, meaning it's the most strongest concentration of perfume. So it's intense, everything is just amplified as well. But I did mention in my review that this does have some zingy Mandarin touch, but it's kind of a bitter-sweet Mandarin touch that kind of like surrounds the entire fragrance and gives it a very fresh surrounding. But in the end, you have all those really concentrated notes of rose, oud, and patchouli. Anyway, Montal's Intense Black Oud is really intense and definitely a quarantine monster. Now, if this wasn't around, I would have featured Black Oud as well, but thankfully we have this one. But you can certainly do the original. So this next one is a fragrance brand I've never spoken about, but this one was actually one that I discovered and I really fell in love with its intensity. It is so strong, it's almost like if you overspray, you're going to be nose blind. And I've explained this to you recently in a video. If you don't know what nose blind is, sometimes when fragrances are overly intense, it's going to kind of like make you blind because it's so strong, it's going to kind of like choke your nose is what I should say. This is Art Olfato Oud Cassian. So this kind of reminds me of something like a cross between Black Afghano and maybe a little bit of Laudano Nero from TIZIANA TERENZI. So it's a very, very smoky, oudy, kind of incensey, spicy kind of a fragrance. But what they have here is saffron, cardamom, vetiver, sandalwood, tonka, and ambergris. But it's quite intense, it's really potent, and a little goes a long way. So this is another suggestion I would have to wear when I'm quarantined or sheltering in place in my house. And I'm just spraying away the fragrances and nobody's going to tell me it's too strong. Anyway, Art Olfato Oud Question is definitely one for you to try. If you don't know this house, definitely check it out. I've seen them around. Alright, so this next one is from the house of Frank Beauclerc, and I've always put this on a beast mode or intense fragrances list. This is a cocaine. Cocaine is definitely literally like cocaine. You get addicted to this smell because it's wonderful. This is all about tuberose. Manoi oil, which Manoi oil is a gardenia essence. I believe I've seen it come up in different beauty products and here and there, and it's an oil derived from gardenias or some kind of a white flower. There's also lily here, there's caramel, tobacco, vanilla, orchid, patchouli, red berries. So it's definitely white flowers, but very masculine and intense, like really, really intense. And the juice that's in here is so dark and red. Just don't spray it on anything white because it's going to really make a stain on your colors. But it's phenomenal. When you spray this on you, this is another one of those fragrances that's going to kind of like give you nose blindness because it's so strong. A little goes a long way. A lot of these fragrances are probably not appropriate for summer since we are heading into summer. But if you want them intense and you're wearing them in the house and you don't really give a crap about anybody complaining, then go with something like cocaine. Again, this is a very masculine white floral fragrance, guys. And I've turned this on to a lot of men and they've all fallen in love with it. Anyway, Cocaine from Frank Beauclerc is definitely intense, beast mode. Now, a lot of the brands that I'm talking about today are known for their more intensity. So if you like intense fragrances, you're probably going to want to research these houses if you don't already know them. But most of you that know the houses know that the brands have the brands have very, very intense fragrances. Now, if I tell you otherwise, you'll know that, okay, this house is not known for their intense fragrances, but this particular fragrance I'm featuring today is definitely intense. Anyway, the next one is going to the house of, where is that one? Here it is. It's Zoologist Perfumes. I chose B because it is very, very intense. In fact, the whole house is very, very intense, but I decided to go with the favorite fragrance of mine. Now, compared to some of the other fragrances like T-Rex or Moth, I feel like this is not as intense, but overall, it is a very, very intense fragrance. It's really, really beastly. It's beast mode, I would call it. But this is all gourmand and honeyed and floral and powdery, all that good stuff. It's really, really delicious, actually. It's a really, really wonderful honeyed concoction with beeswax, benzoin, mimosa, vanilla, ginger, heliotrope, broom, orange blossom. I think there's also royal jelly in here. This is so delicious. Go check out my review, and it's very, very long lasting. A little goes a long way. It smells like spring in a bottle because it has the florals in there like mimosa and the broom, but I guess it is appropriate for spring as well, but I think it might not be appropriate for summer. If you want to wear it in the summertime, definitely control your sprays. Anyway, Zoologist Perfumes is definitely a beast mode house. If you like your fragrances to be beastly, check out that house. So this next one is one that I actually am so impressed with the beastliness. This is Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Baccarat Rouge Extrait, the 540 Extrait. This one lasts a long, long time. In fact, this fragrance leaves such a trail, such a long, and the projection is so loud. In fact, I also like it over the original because the original is not as intense as this one, so the intensity is extra potent. It's Extrait de Parfum, as I said. Now, this one is also Extrait de Parfum, and if you guys don't know the difference between Extrait versus eau de parfum, go check out my video on concentrations of perfumes. But Extrait basically means it's the most intense, the most potent, and the most amount of oils to create the fragrance. And this one just lasts. Next day I wake up, I can still smell it on me, and even if it's sprayed on my clothes, I pick up my clothes, and as soon as there's some movement with that clothes, you can smell in the air is it's just long lasting. Anyway, a great scent. It's not a love at first sniff, the original, but once I got to know the original, I had to have the intense or the extrait version because it's amazing. Now, a lot of people say there's almonds. I mean, I get like a subtle almondy nuttiness in there, but it doesn't really smell like too much like almonds. Anyway, that's just me. That's my nose. Mostly I'm getting is ambergris, but to me it's more of like a fusion of ambergris with ambroxan, because I don't get a lot of ambergris touches. So in fact, I think this is probably not necessarily ambergris. Maybe there's a little bit of ambergris with a lot of ambroxan. Anyway, there's also almonds, as I said, and then saffron, jasmine, and woody notes. It's wonderful. This is awesome stuff, and it's definitely beastly for your quarantine monster fragrances. Anyway, check that one. I also want to mention that the house is not necessarily known for beast. There are some fragrances here and there that might come off very, very intense and monster-like performance, but I feel like the house overall is not necessarily like a house that has everything to be beastly. So check out some of the fragrances there. They have for fragrances like the Fortes, the Aqua Universalis and Aqua Vitae Fortes. Those are more intense, but I don't find them beastly. Some of you might find them beastly, but I personally do not. But in fact, the extraits come off very, very intense. The ouds definitely are as well. Anyway, check that out. Now this next one is from the house of Tom Ford. I typically feature Tobacco Vanille, but today I decided to go with Tobacco Oud. Both of them I find to be intense creations, and in fact the reason I find them to be intense is because the cloud and the sillage and the projection is so loud that I find them to be really overwhelming. And when you spray a lot of it, you're gonna get nose blind from the smell, because it's gonna like not make you smell a lot. So definitely keep your sprays to a minimum. And then Tobacco Oud actually goes a little extra to add a little bit of a slightly musky, slightly animalic twist to the fragrance. But this one's all about tobacco. It's tobacco, whiskey, oud, spicy notes, sandalwood, patchouli, incense. It's a phenomenal release. It's one of my favorites from Tom Ford. Sadly, they don't make the decanter anymore, and I recently had bought this from Europe when I was there because it's a little cheaper there. But anyway, it's a great, great scent. It's really, really beastly. You gotta like it a little dirty because it does have that dirtiness, but the dirtiness comes from like an ashiness of tobacco rather than like, you know, dirty something else. Anyway, Tom Ford Tobacco Oud. It's a wonderful, wonderful scent from this house. Now this next one is known for, Tom Ford is not necessarily known for, you know, beastly fragrances, but within the collection you'll definitely find some fragrances that are definitely on the beastly side, like Tobacco Vanille and a few others. Anyway, this next one is NISHANE's HACIVAT, and this house is known for beastly fragrances. Not everything, but the majority of them are very, very long lasting. This is an extrait de parfum concentration once again. So extrait de parfum is the strongest concentration of perfume oils. And here HACIVAT is such a strong fragrance, and I decided to go with this one again. I would have picked a few others that are really intense as well, but this one actually people love it and know that it's really, really intense as a fragrance. It's pineapple, oak moss, grapefruit, woody notes, bergamot, patchouli, cedar. I feel like this is the more mature Aventus. It's definitely a lot woodier, a lot more intense, a lot more concentrated, and there's this like green crunchy experience within it. I've told this story a few times, but I wore it once to a restaurant and I had oversprayed it, and I had lent it to a friend and he oversprayed it as well, and we were kind of like choking ourselves, not even smelling our food. It's really intense, guys. Check out NISHANE HACIVAT. This next one is from a house that makes pretty intense fragrances. The majority of them are. There are some that are not. And I decided to go with this particular fragrance, NAXOS, today from XERJOFF. It's not one of their most intense fragrances, but I find the performance to be out of this world with this one. Great projection, a great, great sillage, and excellent longevity. And this one actually has a bitter almondy, like tobacco experience because it's got lots of tonka bean. Bitter almondy tonka beans are kind of almondy to me, and also it has lots of lavender, and there's some spicy notes, but the lavender adds this like wonderful aromatic experience to the fragrance as well. Of course, there's the tobacco, and that's what really reminds people of pure Havana, but to me I find it to be different. Even though the tobacco in Pure Havane, and that particular fragrance is more syrupy. I find this one to be a lot drier, so there's that difference in there. But it is long-lasting fragrance, and again, go easy on the trigger with the sprays, but it's very, very long-lasting, really, really big projection and sillage with this one as well. This is NAXOS from the house of XERJOFF. Again, that house is known for very intense fragrances, some more than others, but the majority tend to be very, very intense. Now this next one is from the house of Parfums de Marly. This is CARLISLE. Major, major beast with this one. It's really, really intense. It's a creamy Guaiac wood note along with some cardamom. There's some patchouli, mandarin orange. There is some violet and jasmine and some fresh bergamot thrown in there as well. But in the end, it's a very, very intense fragrance. And for me, this fragrance acts like a combo of Leighton with Herod together. So that experience comes in. It's a little tobacco-ish, a little smoky-ish, but then a lot of kind of like, there's a little bit of like fruity undertones in there as well. Not sure where it's coming from, but in the end, it's really delicious. This is CARLISLE from the house of Parfums de Marly. If you want it intense, definitely go with that one. I feel like it is really, really, really intense. All right, so this next one is from the house of Cartier, and this is Oud Radeau, this one right here. This one is really, really overwhelmingly cloudy. The sprays are so big, and that's why I'm saying cloudy. It's just kind of like the sillage is big. It's a big fragrance, big performing, and just major projection and sillage when you wear it. It is long lasting as well, and it's very, very spicy and aromatic. So the ginger kind of pretty much rules this fragrance, but then you also have oud and some Sichuan pepper. There's some muskiness in there as well. But if you like ginger in fragrances, if you love to eat ginger for Japanese like sushi and stuff, you're gonna love this one if you like the smell as well. It's just very, very spicy and very, very big. It's a big presence. The house is not necessarily known for this kind of fragrances, but this particular collection in this bottle, which they've actually changed recently, I feel like the fragrances are pretty intense and very, very like, they're expensive, but they're also very, very big experiences. Anyway, Oud Radeau from the house of Cartier. It's definitely a big quarantine monster or quarantine beast for us. All right, this next one is from the house of TIZIANA TERENZI, and I've got to always feature this one because this is definitely a big monster. This is TIZIANA TERENZI's LAUDANO NERO. This is very, very smoky, very, very ashy, but with some, you know, boozy undertones and some sweet undertones. Laudano is basically Labdanum in Italian. It's basically, you know, dark or black Labdanum is what it stands for. And if you're curious to learn more about Labdanum, I have tons of videos on the channel about Labdanum. It's basically the rock rose. It's a white flower that's used to create the amber accord. So in the end, this is ambery because there's some Labdanum in here, but there's lots of ash and there's oak and there's honey, there's tobacco, there's oud, there's cognac, and incense. It's like a very, very unique version of Black Afghano. Black Afghano, they're different to me. A lot of people compare them. I see the similarities, but this is so ashy and so burned smelling compared to Black Afghano, which is more coffee and tobacco, or hashish is what it is, I think, in that fragrance. But this one, actually, I prefer this one over Black Afghano. I feel like Black Afghano has just become diluted for some reason. I loved it when I first bought it back in 2013, the first time I picked it up. Amazing, amazing fragrance, but I feel like it's just not the same. But this one is still very, very beastly. Very, very, like, it'll choke you if you overspray it because it's so smoky, it's so concentrated. Again, once again, we have a brand that releases extrait de parfum concentration, meaning the most intense or most concentrated perfume oils and fragrances. Anyway, try this LAUDANO NERO if you want intense fragrances. And this is from the house of TIZIANA TERENZI. And TIZIANA TERENZI is definitely known for intense experiences. All the fragrances are extrait de parfum. They're big, bold, and in-your-face, loud experiences. All right, this next one's from the house of Tower Perfumes. This is Accour de Desert. I put this one on here because I find it to be really, really intense compared to the original. This is, once again, extrait de parfum. The original LDDM, or L'air du Desert Marocain, is a eau de toilette. I always thought that that was eau de parfum, but I was corrected. So that's an eau de toilette. So this one's a more intense version. Also a less dry version of L'air de Desert Marocain, and definitely a longer lasting, a big fragrance. Again, don't overspray this stuff. This is really going to choke you out, but it smells wonderful. If you like the original L'air de Desert Marocain, you want some more intensity, and you want a more ambery experience rather than a dry amber experience, this one's definitely there. It's still dry, but it's not as dry as the original. So this one has coriander, cedar, it's got labdanum, it's got vetiver, petitgrain, cumin, lots of unique stuff going on, but it's captured the air of the Moroccan desert appropriately. Anyway, this is wonderful stuff. It's really, really big, and it's definitely a quarantine monster for you to try. If you haven't tried it, Tower Perfumes, Au Coeur de Desert, wonderful stuff. So this next one is from a house that releases very, very intense fragrances. It's an indie house, and I decided to go with this one because I love this one as a smell. There's a few that I love the smell of, but I don't find this one to be as intense as the rest of the collection, but still very, very intense. This is Rosé All Day from Gallagher Fragrances. So this one, what I like about this one is a very, very unique fragrance. It smells like you're smelling an apple dessert with roses and, you know, just like a pastry, but warm. All it needs is a little bit of ice cream on top, and it's almost like you're having an apple crisp with ice cream on top, or an apple pie or something. But it's very honeyed, apple crisp, plums, patchouli, brown sugar, rose, labdanum, rosé all day. I guess, is it rosé all day or rose all day, because it's rose after all. It doesn't smell like rosé to me, but it's really, really delicious. Very, very long lasting. It's a gourmand, and they've taken the rose into another gourmand direction, which is fabulous, because you know, Montal did it with Intense Cafe, and a few other brands followed it, and then Gallagher Fragrances did it in a different twist. You know, I mean, I feel like you can put the milkiness in here because, you know, on apple crisps or apple pie, I love, you know, ice cream on it, but I think it's unique on its own. But a wonderful fragrance, a very, very long-lasting fragrance. Again, the brand's known for really, really intense fragrances, really, really long-lasting, big fragrance experiences. This one not so much, but I wanted to feature this one because it smells wonderful. Still very, very intense experience. So Rosé All Day from Gallagher Fragrances. All right, this next one is from the house of Maître Parfumé et Gantier. This is Ambre Pursot Ultime. I could feature Ambre Pursot Ultime, and then a few other fragrances from this house as they're really, really beast mode. But this one I went with today for the first time to feature this because it's, after all, a more intense version of the original Ambre Pursot. This is Amber, Myrrh, Vanilla, Tolu Balsam, Lavender, Labdanum. Interesting that you can add this lavender note to ambers. And ambers generally are syrupy, molassesy, you know, like honeyed experiences. They're orientals, but here we've gotten the lavender added in, gives you a kind of a slightly soapy, aromatic, herbal experience, in addition to all the resins and vanilla and unique notes. It's wonderful fragrance. Very, very long lasting. Definitely a quarantine monster or quarantine beast. And if you're looking for something like that today, definitely check out Maître Parfumé et Gantier. Either the original Ambre Pursot or the Ultime, and Ultime is definitely really intense. So this next one is from a house called The Harmonist. This is Yin Transformation. This, once again, is another Extrait de Parfum concentration. And the fragrance house, this particular house, is not so hyped, but I find their fragrance is really intense. Some of them even more intense than others, and just really, really big experiences. If you don't know anything about this house, go check out my video about this house. I've done a few videos here and there. And the Harmonist's Yin Transformation is very, very unique, freshy, that's really, really intense, because what's in here, there's a water accord, or a water, I don't think it's a note, and it's just like a water accord. So you just imagine thick water. I don't know if that makes sense to you, just like acts like thick water. And there's a special orchid note in here that's supposedly grown is found in the redwoods here in California. That's what I heard from the people behind the brand. So there's like a floral touch. It is, after all, floral fragrance. There's lots of muskiness here as well, and lots of different flowers like ylang ylang, freesia. There's some citruses in here as well: bergamot, grapefruit, lemon. So the entire combination is very, very fresh, but it's a very, very deep, rich, intense, fresh fragrance, and very, very unique. So Yin Transformation, it's wonderful. It's floral, it's citrus, it's watery, but really, really amplified, really intense. intense. Anyway, check out the Yin transformation from the Harmonist. Very, really long lasting. Now, sometimes you guys might prefer not so dark fragrances that are beast mode. Then that one definitely would be one for you to try. All right, there's only 5 more left. And then the next one is one that I've always featured in beastly fragrance videos. This is Atelier d'Orange Rien Intense Incense. Intense Incense. The original is pretty intense, it's pretty animalic, it's pretty leathery, it's pretty smoky and aldehydic. Here they've just made really, really intense with the incense. But you got lots of aldehydes here, so I feel like the aldehydes, they're these like sparkly effervescent notes that really kind of like is light and airy. So you've added that to the incense and leather, so it's kind of like a juxtaposition, but in the end, it's lightened everything up. The aldehydes are very, very sparkly and effervescent, as I said, but in the end, the incense and leather really win this one because it's really, really heavy and really, really weighty. Deep, very, very deep and rich, very smoky. There's also a Labdanum note in here as well, which is the amber accord that's created with it. There's Patchouli, there's Oakmoss. It's a powerhouse. This is what you call a powerhouse. It's very, very smoky and leathery. And again, the aldehydes is an afterthought because what's winning is those really, really deep and rich notes of incense, leather, and oak moss together with the Labdanum and Patchouli. Wonderful fragrance. This is really, really awesome. Rien Intense Incense from Atelier d'Orange. It's amazing fragrance, guys. This next one is from the House of Javoy. This is Psychedelic right here. Psychedelic, one of the best patchouli fragrances, but it's a very ambery patchouli, and it has the kind of a chocolatey or chocolate cakey experience with the patchouli. So you gotta like earthy patchouli and those chocolatey undertones. Then you have the amber, vanilla, labdanum. There's some musk and there's some aromatic notes of geranium. It does have some herbal qualities with the geranium, and then citrus is thrown in, but the citruses are very, very minute. It's mostly about that very, very earthy chocolatey patchouli with the ambery touches. Love that stuff. Anyway, Psychedelic from Javoy, you've heard me talk about this one plenty, but I can't stop talking about it because it's so good. This next one is from the House of Mancera. It's Red Tobacco. This is intense, intense, intense. I wanted to feature one Mancera, and I've got this one on here. It's tobacco, cinnamon, vanilla, oud, patchouli, saffron, nutmeg, apple. Very, very intense, very long lasting, really, really powerful, beast mode, really overwhelmingly strong, and just go easy on the trigger with this one. I don't find a lot of Manceras as intense as the fragrances of Montal, probably because I'm not really experiencing a lot of the more intense Mancera fragrances, but I feel like this one's definitely really, really potent and powerful, and a little goes a long way. It definitely does cause nose blindness, so you gotta not spray too many times. Anyway, Red Tobacco, it's wonderful. Check it out. It's really, really overwhelming, guys, so a little goes a long way with this one. All right, this next one is from the House of Frederic Malle, and then this is Portrait of a Lady, this one right here, and you know, I've heard you guys complain about the name of this fragrance, but you know what? It doesn't smell like a lady. It's just the name of a book. So, but it is about roses, but that's basically not so feminine. You've got lots of patchouli here, lots of incense, and you've got cinnamon and cloves. You've got also raspberry, and then you have a little bit of a black currant note. But man, this is so good. It is so good. It's probably one of the best fragrances ever created. It's an instant classic, or it's become an instant classic. And when I first smelled it, I had to buy it. It's just phenomenal. But it is loud. It is so loud. It's really, really beastly. So a little goes a long way. It's an intense experience. It's a long lasting, and it's phenomenal. It gets me compliments because I could be sitting at a restaurant and people would be like going, what's that smell? Where is it coming from? I want to find out. And I've been stopped with this fragrance many times. I shouldn't overspray this fragrance, but I love overspraying it. And when you walk in and you bring your scent with you, people will be turning around. That's the kind of fragrance this is. Anyway, it is really loud. Go easy on the trigger. It's a phenomenal release though. It's Frederic Malle's Portrait of a Lady. Probably the best fragrance from that catalog. I mean, I find Musk Ravageur to be a little bit of more of a winner these days, but as far as like loudness and beastliness goes, I find Portrait of a Lady to be a lot more beastly than Musk Ravageur. Musk Ravageur is very comforting, and I personally do not find comforting fragrances to be too beastly or vice versa. Anyway, Frederic Malle is known for really, really intense fragrances. I originally was going to feature the Night in this video, but the Night is so overly expensive, I went with Portrait of a Lady. And last but not least, we're going to go with this last fragrance from the house of Parfums and Nicolai. This is Patchouli Intense. Very, 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 very intense. The name Intense comes to mind. Intense experience with patchouli, but this is a very, very unique patchouli. Definitely nothing like psychedelic. They are so night and day different. This one to me smells like green bell peppers. Patchouli with peppers, green bell peppers. But what you have here are geranium, patchouli, lavender, sandalwood, orange. It's like you're walking into a very, very green patchouli forest, and it's like really, really like swimming in like lots of aromatic herbs. Lots of geranium there, lots of lavender, and you're like kind of crawling your way through it, and you're getting this aroma of not only the patchouli, but the geranium and the lavender. That's my experience with this one. But it's very, very green because you're not only getting through the herbs, the geranium and then the lavender, but you're experiencing all the leaves that go with the geranium, all the leaves that go with the lavender, and also all the patchouli itself. It's like an overgrown patchouli forest. Anyway, that's the kind of experience it is. It's really, really big, intense, loud experience. So go easy on the trigger with this one. So this is Patchouli Intense from the house of Parfums and Nicolai. And that wraps up the list of fragrances in this video that are my quarantine monsters. I do want to offer one more fragrance that's also a beast, just as an honorable mention towards the end of the video, or at the end of the video. This is Terrible Teddy from the house of Penhaligon's that I have reviewed. Intense experience with this one. It's a leather after all, but it's lots of incense, it's leather, and then it's also ambroxan. So it's a really, really loud, choking experience. A little goes a long way with this one, and obviously the animal can tell you the kind of experience you're going to have with this one. If you like leather, if you like ambroxan, and you like incense, smokiness, and really, really loud experience, then definitely Terrible Teddy is one for you to try. I wasn't going to throw in an honorable mention, but I decided to try that, to throw that in, because I really love that fragrance, and I had it sitting on the table, and it's really, really intense. Anyway, those are my fragrance choices that are quarantine monsters or quarantine beasts. What are your thoughts? Do you like these fragrances? Do you like them loud? Do you like them big? Do you like them intense? And do you like the word beast mode? Let me know. Put some comments down so I can find out. Again, I'm not a big fan of this word, but I love the way it explains fragrances because, after all, they're beast mode. And you know, here in San Francisco, we have a store across the bay, a beast mode store. Did you guys know this existed? Anyway, let me know. Let me know about your thoughts on these fragrances. Do you have the same experience with these fragrances as I do? And if I didn't feature a fragrance and you think it's a really, really, you know, intense experience, beastly experience, please put it down so I can find out, so I can check it out. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today. Hopefully you're staying safe. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.